Now, there's a popular saying that in Lagos, you can cook your soup on the move, on the road, and even in traffic. Now, that notion simply describes the role played by street hawkers in Lagos.
In fact, motorists can buy virtually anything while on the road. And for hawkers who surface from nowhere, traffic jams on Lagos roads are always a faster cash spinner.
Now, the passage of the street trading bill into law was meant to reduce or perhaps put an end to street trading. Rather, Lagosians still engage in the act. And somebody said if Lagos is really to implement this law, that means many of us would actually end up in jail. Let's bring in our guest right here in the studio, Liberos Oshoma. He's a lawyer. 3 months jail or an option of 10,000 naira fine. Is this killing an ant with a sledgehammer? Now, this incident that happened in Ikeja along, would you really say that it is scapegoatism, or is it Lagos State really seriously ready to implement this environmental law?
I would go with your first option, scapegoatism. Because why I say that, if you remember, there were times when it was forbidden to ride Okadas, you know, on the Ikorodu Road, to ride Okada without wearing helmets. But the moment the elections came, all of that, you know, fizzled out. The laws were no longer implemented until, you know, after the elections, you know. And then we saw, you know, policemen turn Okada riders to ATM. So, you know, it became fashionable to seize Okadas. If you go to some police station, it was like, you know, a workshop for Okada sellers. And so that's why for me, when making laws is not about, it's not about, you know, just make the law and then leave it there and then wake up someday and say, oh, there's a law like this. We need to quickly implement and use a few people as scapegoat. Laws should be made to better the society and then also find a way of ensuring that you not only ensure that people don't break the law, but also make sure that the people don't have opportunity to break the law.
Okay, so let's take them one after the other now. How do you ensure that people don't have the opportunity to break the law?
The first thing you ask yourself, you know, we have given Lagos State government kudos for creating buffers and bus stops, you know, on highway to decongest traffic. Yes. And so when there are no traffics, you know, these traffic traders won't be available, won't be there. And that's one. But also it is almost an impossibility to say, you know, with Lagos, the kind of metropolitan city that you know, have in Lagos, it will be difficult for you to say there won't be traffic. You know, even in New York, it doesn't happen. But then it's a gradual process. And then also, what leads people to street trading? Yeah. Where people ordinarily want to trade on the streets. You know, what leads people to street trading? So in
other words, we're dealing with the symptoms and not the disease itself.
You know, so that's why even when you seize their wares, you seize, you know, confiscate, the very next day you still find some of this person. And then the police CP just left here.
Yes.
You find out that some of the criminals they parade, they will tell you, I used to be a street trader until Lagos State government confiscated our goods. And because I didn't want to die of poverty, I had to opt for this other, you know, alternative, which is crime. And so, but I'm not saying that, you know, in all cases where you remove people from the street, that they go into crime. But we should learn to begin to provide alternatives and then create opportunities that people can keep. And
let me just even stay there with you. We just had the CP, like you rightly mentioned, and I brought up the issue of people who were perhaps chased, they were taken out of the Ishawo area last year. They were driven out of that place, and a year later, they are back there again. So when you disarm people, how do you have to find a way of reintegrating them into the society, finding something worthwhile for them to do. Otherwise,
like you said, and like Ngozi said, you find out that what we do here, all of us are guilty, including some people who are in government today. There were times where they were buying in traffics also. They
and they're still buying in traffic.
Yes, they will tell you, don't worry, you get these things to buy in traffic. Don't worry, it's cheaper in traffic. And there are some big businesses who employ these boys to trade, you know, in traffic, because for some persons it's difficult for them to go to shops. But what government should be doing is not, you know, bringing down the hammer heavily. It's to first and foremost look at what led to all of this. And how do we ensure gradually? And that's how you now talk, that's when you now talk about integration, resettlement or option. Like the Shawo area you made mention of. If government had properly resettled these people, then there wouldn't have been need for them to come back. But when you just come, you use the sledgehammer, drive everybody. But
you know, Liborous, there are instances where government actually tries to provide some kind of alternative for those people.
Yes.
But they refuse. They're totally
stubborn.
I remember the case of 1004 when the people were removed from there. Government provided an alternative for them, but they refused to go there.
How many people were provided with such alternatives?
Well,
that's the question you should be asking.
Totally different.
You know, how many legal occupants of these areas were provided with such alternatives? So let's not just say you have 1,000 persons and then you provided 50 alternative, and then you say you provided alternative.
So in this case, talking about alternatives, what you ask the street hawkers to go and do is to go and rent shops in the market, and those shops are pretty expensive.
Can they afford?
So what alternative are we talking about?
That's what I'm saying. In Lagos State government, you remember, Tejo Show Market, government said, look, we need to develop this area, we need to elevate. But then, most of these traders in these markets were dislodged, and then government said we'll give them a right of first refusal. But were there shops that these people who were paying 50,000 for shops or 100,000 as the case may be, were there shops available for them to rent at that, you know, amount? Yeah. You know, but what you see is 10 million naira, 13 million naira, 15 million naira. And so I can tell you, even you with all your salaries, it will be difficult for you to save such an amount, not to talk of a petty trader who is trying to come up. And so what government should be doing, where you are building the upscale market, also find a way of building smaller markets that some of these persons can afford.
So the government is caught between fighting poverty and fighting the poor. It's a thin line. How do you do a balancing act? Lagos State, for example, wants to achieve a mega city status, and it has to do everything.
You don't achieve mega city. You don't achieve mega city by outlawing the poor. It's not possible, because even everybody cannot be a governor. That governor, somebody will drive him. Somebody will be his barber. Somebody will be his technician. And that was the problem with the Abuja mega city plan then. When they built Wuse and all the zones and the
Asokoro and
the Asokoros, they forgot that their drivers needs place to rest their heads. And so when they all came to Abuja, there were no places for some of these drivers and co. And so they had to relocate to Kubwa. Government came later to say, no, Abuja master plans and the rest. You know, these are things you need to, from the word go, take care of. And so if you say you're building a mega city, Lagos mega city, mega city plan, what plan do you have for the urban poor? Because whether you like it or not, the poor will always be among you. And so... And so for street trading, really, it is not something you can just phase out in one day. People are, like I said, people are commending Lagos State government for easing traffic movement.
So what is that gradual process that is there for government to use as a way of phasing out
in areas where you have eased traffic, do you still see traders on such traffic? The answer is no. In areas also where you have provided alternative shops for some of these people that are affordable to them, no matter how small, you want to start a business, there are opportunities for you to get a small place to sell that gala, to sell that pure water that you are selling, rather than endangering your life in traffic. You know, there are also opportunities for you to drive in, park your car.
There seems to be something wrong with our attitude too. You find, I'm sure you've seen this severally, where there are pedestrian bridges overhead, but you still see Nigerians crossing the highway. What do you make of that?
Look at what Lagos State government is doing in Ikorodu Road, with all the mesh wires that they are, they've created, and then provided, bigger pedestrian bridges. Do you still see people try to break the mesh wires to cross the...
Some have been broken.
Yes, some have been broken because you will always have deviants. You know, that's where you now have law enforcement agents to ensure that these deviants are shown the way of the law. But by not providing bridges, and then you now say people shouldn't cross the road, what it means is, you know, you are not even done your bit.
You're beating me and asking me not to cry.
Exactly.
Great.
So you see, if you get to Ojota at night now, you will say, oh, fantastic. So somebody's thinking in Lagos State, you know. So now if somebody is caught crossing the road, nobody will complain because people will say government had done what it needed to do.
In this case now, talking about buying things from
this case, do you know that sometimes
you're thirsty and hungry, even in traffic? How do you take care of that?
Wait. Do you know that in some cases you drive to some markets, parking is a problem for you? In Lagos State here, the government is not even thinking about parking for people that would drive to come buy in some of these markets. Sometimes the parking is so small and congested. It's all about planning. And so, you that is in the car, you left somewhere and you're going somewhere. So you should also make provisions for water and all of those things that you would. You don't
Maybe it will help us be more disciplined and not, you know, live this extra budgetary life where you buy, you spend
cook soup in traffic. Traffic trading really, it's not something that should be encouraged, but government also needs to take the appropriate step to discourage it. You don't come down,
all right.
use the scapegoatism approach to all of this.
We'll leave it there. Many thanks for coming on TVC Breakfast this morning.